You have been laboring under a great and universal misconception that there is a distance between you and God. I am here to tell you that this is the fundamental error of human life. The truth you seek, the peace you crave, the divine presence you feel is absent. It is not to be attained, for it is already the very core of your being. This is not a teaching to be believed, but a reality to be unveiled from within. In this talk, we will expose the illusion of the seeker and reveal the glorious and present fact that the journey is already over, and what remains is only for you to recognize it. For your entire spiritual life, you have been operating on a single, unquestioned premise that you are here, and God, or enlightenment, or peace is there. This very assumption creates the seeker, and with the seeker, the entire exhausting paradigm of the path. You have been given maps, techniques, and disciplines, all designed to bridge this perceived gap. You have prayed to a God you believe is separate from you. You have meditated to attain a quiet mind you do not possess. You have sought to become a better, more spiritual version of yourself. This is the grand and subtle illusion. It is the foundation upon which the entire spiritual marketplace is built, and it is, from the very beginning, a misapprehension of your own self. Consider the simple, profound act of breathing. You do not seek air. You do not pray for it. You do not perform rituals to become worthy of it. Even when you are not consciously thinking of it, it is there, sustaining you, being the very substance of your life. The relationship is one of innate, unbreakable unity. The air is not outside of you, it is within you, and you are within it. This is the precise nature of your relationship with the divine presence. It is not a commodity to be acquired through effort, but the very ground of your being in which you live and move. The frantic search for God is as unnecessary as a fish searching for water. The fish is already immersed, already sustained, already one with its element. Your struggle, your sense of lack, your feeling of being a seeker, arises only when you momentarily believe you are on dry land. Let us look at your daily life. You wake up with a sense of burden, a list of problems to solve, a future to secure, a past to regret. In this state, you are the quintessential seeker, seeking solutions, seeking security, seeking happiness. You believe peace will come when the problems are solved. But what if the very structure of this thought is backwards? What if the peace you seek is not the product of solved problems, but the very context in which problems are seen for what they are? Temporary, surface, level phenomena that cannot touch the core of your being. The sun does not seek to become bright. It is brightness itself, and by its nature, it illuminates whatever passes before it. A cloud may obscure it from a particular viewpoint, but the sun's nature is unchanged. You are that sun, and your worries, fears, and desires are the clouds. The spiritual practice is not to create the sun, but to recognize that you are it, and in that recognition, the clouds lose their solidity and their power to convince you that darkness is your true state. This is the great pivot. It is a shift from striving to realizing, from becoming to being. All the practices you have undertaken, the meditation, the prayer, the study, were never meant to build a bridge to God. They were meant to quiet the noise of the seeker so that the ever-present hum of the presence could be heard. They are not tools for construction, but for deconstruction. Deconstructing the belief that you are separate. Think of a man in a room frantically searching for his glasses, turning over cushions, looking under furniture, growing more and more anxious. The entire time, the glasses are resting on his nose, and he is seeing through them. His search is not only futile, it is blind to the very fact that the instrument of sight is already in place, already functioning. His problem is not the absence of the glasses, but the mistaken belief in their absence. Your spiritual struggle is precisely this. The clarity, the peace, the divine intelligence you seek is not an object to be found. It is the very consciousness with which you are seeking. It is the seeker itself. When you sit to meditate and a storm of thoughts arises, the traditional approach is to see this as a failure, a sign that you are not yet a good meditator, that you have more seeking to do. But from this standpoint, the storm is not a problem. The one who is aware of the storm, the silent, unmoving, witnessing presence that notices the chaos without being consumed by it, that is what you are. You are not the tempest. You are the sky that holds it. The entire drama of the spiritual journey is happening within you, but you are not the drama. You are the stage, the silent, spacious, and unchanging context for it all. To realize this is to end the search. It is to understand that you were never the traveler on the path. You were the destination all along. The path was simply a long and winding detour through a landscape of your own misconceptions, a journey taken to discover that you had never left home. This realization that the seeker is an illusion shatters the most deeply held idol of human consciousness, the concept of God as a separate entity. We have, throughout history, crafted this figure in our own image, a supreme being, a celestial king, a divine parent residing in a distant heaven. We pray to this externalized deity, we plead for its intervention, we seek its approval, and we fear its judgment. This entire relationship, no matter how devout, is founded on the same fundamental duality as any other human relationship, the duality of subject and object, of me and other. It is the ultimate projection of the sense of self, and it must be seen for the limitation it is if we are to know the infinite. The God of your prayers and petitions is a creation of the human mind, a concept built to make the unmanageable vastness of pure being comprehensible to a sense-based consciousness. It is a comforting thought to be sure to imagine a powerful father figure watching over you, but it is a thought nonetheless. And any thought, no matter how sublime, is a limitation, a boundary placed upon the boundless. The truth of God is not a person, a being, or a thing. It is the very substance and principle of all being. It is the life animating your body, the intelligence orchestrating your cells, the consciousness perceiving these very words. To personify this is to shrink it to a manageable size, and in doing so, You miss the awesome, impersonal, and omnipresent reality of what it is. Consider the force of gravity. You do not pray to gravity to hold you to the earth. You do not ask it for favors or thank it for its consistency. It is a silent, invisible, omnipresent principle that governs the very nature of matter in this universe. It operates without petition, without emotion, without any personal regard for you whatsoever. And yet, you live and move within its field every moment of your life, completely dependent upon its unwavering law. The divine principle is like this, but it is not merely a physical force. It is the very core of consciousness and life itself. It is the law of harmony, the principle of love, the intelligence of the universe, manifesting as form and function. You do not need to plead with a principle. You need only to understand it and align yourself with its nature. You do not ask the principle of mathematics for a correct answer. You apply the principle correctly, and the correct answer is revealed. In your daily life, this shift is the difference between a life of supplication and a life of conscious embodiment. When a problem arises, the old model of a separate God leads you to look upward and outward. God, please fix this. God, give me a sign. God, why have you forsaken me? This posture keeps you in the role of a helpless child waiting for rescue. But when you realize that the divine intelligence is not out there, but is the very fabric of your own awareness, your approach transforms entirely. The problem is no longer a signal to send a prayer into the void, but an invitation to go deeper into the silence within, to become still and listen for the unfoldment of that intelligence from within your own being. You are not asking for an answer. You are abiding in the source of all answers. Think of a musician who has spent years merely reading sheet music, playing the notes as written, and looking to the composer as a distant, external authority. This is the worshiper of a separate God. Then, one day, the musician stops, looking at the page. She closes her eyes, and she feels the music. She realizes that the music is not on the paper, it is a living force within her. She begins to improvise, to create, not from obedience to an external score, but from a spontaneous flow of harmony and melody that springs from the depths of her own being. She has not become the composer. She has realized that she is one with the spirit of music itself. The composer she once revered externally is now known as an internal principle, a universal language of which she is a living expression. Your relationship with the divine is meant to make this same transition, from reading a script written by another to becoming a living instrument through which the infinite music of the universe spontaneously and uniquely expresses itself. The separate God was a necessary concept, a training wheel, but to know the truth, the training wheels must come off. And so we come to the practical consequence of this truth, the natural movement that arises when the belief in a separate God dissolves. If the divine is not a distant figure in the sky, but the very core and substance of your being, then the entire orientation of your search must reverse. The journey is not upward toward some celestial throne, but inward into the profound and silent depths of your own consciousness. This is not a journey through space, but a journey through attention. It is a turning of the light of awareness away from the external world of effects and back upon its own source. For centuries, we have been conditioned to look for salvation, for answers, for fulfillment in the world outside of ourselves. We seek it in relationships, in achievements, in possessions, in the approval of others. We even seek it in spiritual authorities, holy books, and sacred places. This is the upward and outward search. It is the frantic effort of the wave to find the ocean by looking toward the shore, never realizing that the ocean is the very substance of the wave itself. The wave does not need to go anywhere to find the ocean. It needs only to sink into the recognition of what it already is. Your feeling of lack, of incompleteness, is not a signal that you need to acquire something you do not have. It is a signal that you have been looking in the wrong direction. Consider the simple act of trying to hear a very faint, distant sound. What is your natural response? You do not shout into the sky, hoping the sound will hear you and come closer. You do not run frantically in all directions. You become still. You quiet your own breathing. You turn your entire capacity for listening in the direction of the sound. You eliminate the internal noise to perceive what is already present. This is the precise dynamic of the inward journey. The peace you seek, the guidance you crave, the presence of God, these are not faint or distant. They are ever present, but they are subtle. They are drowned out by the cacophony of your own thoughts, fears, and desires. The practice, then, is not one of acquisition, but of subtraction. It is the conscious, deliberate quieting of the mind's noise to perceive the silent music that is already playing. Let this be understood in the context of a pressing daily problem. You face a financial difficulty, a health concern, a conflict in a relationship. The old, outward habit of consciousness immediately engages. It analyzes the problem from every angle. It worries. It strategizes. It seeks advice from others. It looks for external solutions. This is the mind racing on the surface of the ocean, churning up waves and spray. The inward journey requires you to do the opposite, which feels counterintuitive to the human mind. It asks you to withdraw your attention from the frantic problem, solving of the surface, and to sink in consciousness beneath the waves. You close your eyes, you become still, and you turn your attention away from the problem itself and toward the feeling of simply being. The simple, undeniable awareness that you are. You are not seeking an answer to the problem in this moment. You are seeking the peace that is prior to the problem. In that stillness, a profound shift occurs. You are no longer identified with the person who has the problem. You have become the silent, spacious awareness in which the problem is appearing. And from this depth, something new can unfold. It may not be a shouted answer or a detailed blueprint. It is more likely a quiet intuition, a spontaneous knowing, a sudden clarity that arises without effort. It is the intelligence of the ocean itself, moving through the wave. The solution that comes from this depth is always harmonious, because it springs from the source of harmony. It did not come from outside of you. It was unveiled from within you, because you provided the silent, receptive space for it to be heard. This is the practical power of the inward turn. It is not an escape from life's challenges, but the only way to meet them with the full resources of your true nature, which is the divine nature itself. The kingdom of heaven is not a location you travel to. It is a dimension of consciousness you uncover by turning within. This inward turning, this conscious sinking beneath the stormy surface of thought, has a single, glorious purpose: the recognition of your already perfected being. This is the final and most radical pillar of this teaching. It is not about self-improvement, but about self-discovery. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a masterpiece to be recognized. The belief that you are flawed, sinful, or incomplete is the central plank of the illusion of separation. And it is this belief that fuels the exhausting search for a salvation you believe you lack. The truth is that your fundamental nature, the I am that you are, is and always has been one with the divine. It is untouched by the errors of the personal sense of life, unscarred by the past, and unthreatened by the future. Consider a gold ring. It may be tarnished, covered in mud, or bent out of shape. Its appearance is flawed, and to the eye, it seems imperfect. One could spend a lifetime trying to polish the tarnish, scrub away the dirt, and reshape the metal, working tirelessly on the ring itself. But a master jeweler knows the secret. The value of the ring is not in its temporary surface condition. Its value is in its substance, which is gold. The gold itself has never been tarnished, never been dirty, never been anything less than pure, precious gold. All the work, then, is not to create the gold, but to remove everything that obscures it. Your spiritual work is precisely this. You are the gold. The tarnish is the accumulation of your mistaken identities, the stories of being a sinner, a failure, a seeker. The practice is the gentle, persistent polishing of awareness to remove these obscurations so that the innate, radiant perfection of your true substance can shine forth of its own accord. This is not a metaphysical theory to be believed, but a living reality to be demonstrated in the laboratory of your own experience. Take a moment right now and feel the aliveness in your hand. Do not think about your hand. Feel the life pulsating within it. That sensation of life, of vibrant, intelligent being, is that yours, or is it something being given to you? Is it a personal possession, or is it a universal force expressing itself as your hand? You will find you cannot claim ownership of it. You cannot say, I made this life. You can only witness it, marvel at it, and surrender to its mysterious operation. This life is the gold. The thought, my hand, is the temporary form it has taken. The life itself is divine, perfect, and whole. Now, extend that feeling to your entire being. The consciousness that reads these words, the intelligence that deciphers them, the very awareness that is present. This is the gold of your being. It was never born and it will never die. It is the one constant throughout all the changing experiences of your life. When you truly glimpse this, your relationship with your own humanity is transformed. The personal failings, the character flaws, the moments of fear and anger, these are not proof of your imperfection. They are the tarnish on the ring. They are patterns of a mind that has forgotten its source. You do not fight them with self-loathing, which is merely adding more tarnish. Instead, you bring the light of this recognition to them. You acknowledge the fear, but you do not believe you are the fear. You witness the anger, but you know you are not the anger. You are the silent, gold awareness in which these temporary states arise and fall. This is how you polish the ring. It is not a battle, but a gentle, persistent abiding in what you know to be true. Even when the surface appearance screams otherwise, you are not becoming perfect. You are learning to stop identifying with the imperfections. The sun does not struggle to be bright. It simply is brightness, and it shines on the mud and the diamond with equal light, without being contaminated by either. You are that sun. Your work is to stop believing the clouds of personal sense can dim your essential nature. The recognition of your already perfected being is the end of seeking and the beginning of a life lived from the unshakable foundation of what you have always been. This recognition of our true nature fundamentally reorients the purpose of all spiritual practice. We are not engaging in meditation, prayer, or contemplation to acquire something we lack. We are not spiritual beggars, holding out our bowls in the hope that some distant divinity will fill them. Such a mindset only reinforces the very sense of lack and separation we are seeking to transcend. The true purpose of practice is not acquisition, but realization. It is to consciously and consistently turn our attention to the ever-present reality of our being until that reality becomes the central, living fact of our existence, displacing the old, wary story of the seeker. Think of a room that has been shrouded in darkness for centuries. The moment a match is struck, the darkness is instantly vanquished. The light did not have to struggle against the darkness. It did not have to spend years convincing the darkness to leave. The nature of light is simply to be, and in its being, darkness is revealed to be an absence, not a substance. Your spiritual practice is the striking of that match. The peace, the wholeness, the divine consciousness you seek is not created by your practice. It is revealed. The practice is the conscious act of turning on the light of your own awareness and directing it upon the truth of what you are. The darkness of fear, lack, and confusion has no power to resist it, for it possesses no substance of its own. It exists only as a belief in the absence of light. Let us bring this into the stark reality of your daily life. You sit to meditate, and the mind is a riot of thoughts. Anxieties about the future, regrets about the past, a relentless inner commentary. The traditional seeker sees this as a failed meditation, evidence that they are not yet spiritual enough, that they must try harder tomorrow. This is the acquisition model, and it leads only to frustration. But from the standpoint of realization, this meditation is a perfect success. Why? Because in the very moment you notice the chaos, you have, for an instant, stepped out of it. The one who is aware of the chaotic mind is not itself chaotic. That aware presence is the light you are. The practice, in that moment, is not to stop the thoughts, but to rest as that awareness. You are not acquiring stillness. You are realizing that you are the stillness in which the movement of thought is occurring. This is a subtle but monumental shift. It turns practice from a grueling labor into a gentle abiding. Or consider a moment of acute fear. Perhaps you receive troubling news from a doctor, or you face a sudden financial crisis. The old, acquisitive consciousness immediately looks for a solution, a way to escape the feeling of fear. It seeks to acquire safety, to find a guarantee. But the practice of realization meets this fear differently. Instead of trying to run from the feeling, you turn toward it. You feel the physical sensations of fear in your body, the tightness in the chest, the quickened pulse, and you bring the question, who is aware of this fear? You do not ask this as a philosophical puzzle, but as a direct, experiential inquiry. You will find that the fear is an object in your consciousness, and you are the subject, the space of awareness in which it is known. You are not acquiring courage to defeat the fear. You are realizing the part of you that fear cannot touch. This is not a denial of the human experience, but a transcendence of it. The fear may still be present, but it has lost its authority. It is a storm happening within the vast sky of your being, and you are the sky. This is how every moment, no matter how mundane or challenging, becomes your practice field. Washing dishes, stuck in traffic, engaged in conversation. Each is an opportunity to shift from the mode of acquisition to the mode of realization. Instead of seeking for peace to come from the completion of the task or the resolution of the conflict, you turn inward and realize the peace that is already present as the context of the experience. You are not trying to become a spiritual person. You are realizing that you are, and always have been, spirit having a human experience. The practice, then, is not a means to an end. It is the continuous, joyful act of remembering and abiding in what you have always been, allowing that truth to illuminate the shadows of the personal self until nothing remains but the light itself. And so we arrive at the natural, spontaneous fruit of this entire unfoldment. When the seeker has been seen as an illusion, when God is known not as a separate entity, but as the very substance of your being, when your practice has shifted from acquisition to the quiet realization of what is already and eternally true, then your life ceases to be a quest for fulfillment and becomes the very expression of fulfillment itself. You are no longer living for a future moment of peace or a distant state of enlightenment. You are living from the palpable reality of that peace here and now. This is not a change in your external circumstances, but a radical shift in the center of gravity of your consciousness. You are no longer drawing your identity from the content of your life, but from the silent, fulfilled context in which all of life appears. Imagine a fountain. The traditional human experience is to identify with one of the individual droplets of water passing through the air, desperately trying to grasp onto other droplets for security, fearing the moment it will fall back into the pool below. It lives in a state of perpetual striving and anxiety. But to live from fulfillment is to realize you are not the droplet. You are the entire fountain, the source, the flow, and the pool into which the water returns. The droplet may experience the temporary arc of birth and death, joy and sorrow, but the fountain is eternally full, eternally flowing, eternally complete. Your life, with all its comings and goings, its triumphs and tragedies, is that droplet. But you, the essential you, are the fountain. To live from this knowing is to live from the fulfillment. This is demonstrated not by withdrawing from the world, but by engaging with it from an entirely new foundation. Consider your daily responsibilities, your work, your relationships, your chores. Previously, you performed these tasks with an underlying motive: to achieve a result that would finally make you happy, secure, or worthy. You were living for the fulfillment you hoped these actions would bring. The action was a means to an end, but when you live from fulfillment, the action itself is transformed. You work not to become successful, but because the infinite intelligence and creativity of your being expresses itself naturally as work. You love not to receive love in return, but because the love that is your fundamental nature overflows without condition. The action is no longer a grasping, it is an offering. It is the fountain playing for no other reason than that it is its nature to flow. Let us take a concrete example. You are asked to perform a simple act of kindness, perhaps helping a stranger in need. The old consciousness, living for fulfillment, would perform the act, but a part of the mind would be waiting for a reward. A thank you, a feeling of pride, the cosmic balancing of karma. If the reward does not come, a subtle disappointment arises. The action was a transaction. But when you live from fulfillment, the act of kindness is its own reward. The joy is not in the result, but in the expression itself. The love that moves you to act is the same love that constitutes your being. In giving it, you are not depleting a limited resource. You are celebrating an infinite one. You are the fountain, and the act of helping is simply the water flowing. The fountain does not flow to become more of a fountain. It flows because it is a fountain. This is the secret of a harmonious life. You are no longer a slave to the outcomes of your endeavors. Success and failure become simply different movements in the dance, neither of which can add to or subtract from the fullness of the dancer. A project may fail, a relationship may end, but the center of your being, the fountain, remains untouched, full, and flowing. This does not make you passive or indifferent. On the contrary, it unleashes a tremendous and fearless energy. When you are no longer protecting a fragile sense of self, you can act with a purity and power that was previously impossible. Your actions are no longer contaminated by the desperate need for them to succeed in propping up your identity. You can fail completely without being a failure, because your identity is rooted in what cannot fail. You are living from the source, and your life becomes a spontaneous, creative, and compassionate expression of that source, not for any reason, but simply because it is its nature to express, to flow, to be.